showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. We have... Did you want to say the line?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a line.
Nice job, kiddo.
Thank you, Daddy.
What a cutie. If you remember seeing the polling data, 76% of people thought this podcast didn't stand a chance. Vegas odds had the over/under for its cancellation at 6 months. I hope you weren't one of those losers who bet the under. If you were, no hard feelings, but you still gotta pay up. Next time, bet on a sure thing, and we will show you what is up. To mark our 15th episode, Bubba invited Ryan Peterson from episode 1 back into the basement to reflect on the growth and impact of the podcast. But this isn't a show all about feels, you know. Bubba actually pressed Ryan on a few issues and the fireworks were lit. The guys talked about greed, economics, the breakdown of the family, and the challenges to the American dream. They even dared to tackle the dangerous topic of, oh man, politics.
Politics?
I know, truly frightening stuff. Even so, you won't want to miss the powerful discussion about what it really means for men to be leaders in their families today. When he ain't preaching, he's right here, still trying to fake it until he makes it.
Shoot, you're doing fine, Bubba.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Here's your host, Bubba Seaman.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This will be episode number 15. It's actually more like episode 30 because we've had a lot of 2- and 3-part episodes. Very few of them have been single-part episodes. So, and this is going to be a first for the What Is Up podcast. We are bringing back our very first guest, if you remember, Ryan Peterson, and he's going to tell us just how he thinks the podcast is going. And me and Ryan, we have the best conversations when we get together, don't we? Mm-hmm. We're turning into old ladies, I think. I don't know what's going on, but and so you don't want to miss a second of this. This is going to be really good, and we're going to cover the following. I've had this thing that I wanted to go deeper with a couple of his answers from his episode about the best and worst things from episode 1. He said greed was the worst thing going in our country, and he said the best thing was technology. And I want to give him a chance to go deeper in that. There's a rumor that he created a Venn diagram that he worked on all afternoon and has since had to trim that back a little bit because he's not staying for dinner. So, but he also wants to talk about single income families versus dual income families. And him and my wife, I think, are going to line up side by side on this issue, if I had to guess. The benefit of youth sports, biological men and women's sports, and this new standalone boxing event format that this YouTuber, Jake Paul, is creating. And you remember Ryan was a Golden Gloves amateur boxer, so he's definitely got an opinion on that. And it's definitely changing. Boxing has changed. And then we will wrap up with the outdoors, because if you know the Petersons, they have basically become homesteaders up in the hills west of Strawberry Point. We're not going to narrow it down any more than that. And he has noticed a lot more about seeing God in creation out there and just getting back to a simple life and things like that. So he's going to share that with us. And then I may even surprise him with one topic, because I know how much he loves Madonna from the 80s. He was a big Madonna guy. No, I'm kidding. But we're going to have a little bit of fun. There will be moments of levity. So, and then I also have a question is, do we have a sister podcast in the South, in North Carolina, called Out of the Church Attic? I will try and get back to them. I think we do. I really think we do. It's the start of a beautiful friendship. I'll tell you guys all about that. But before we get started, I have a big announcement. I just teased it to Ryan, and he was kind of like shocked, like, oh my gosh, what's this going to be? So here it is. No one knows what it is. We at the What Is Up podcast, as of last night, have put in an order for our own equipment.
Nice.
We did. We have not sold enough shirts or hats. So So please keep buying them. Ryan has bought a hat, and there's people like Ryan who overpaid for their hat or shirt and just wanted to make a donation to the podcast. And if you watch my social media, you know I'm not going to Hawaii. I'm not doing this. Is all the funds we make is to go so I can buy my own microphones, buy my own upgraded laptop, things like that. This isn't going in my 401k. Okay, my mom is doing stuff for free just to help us get the profit margin up. You combine all that stuff with my wife's spring bonus at her job, and she signed off on the okay to purchase some of her own equipment. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived. It's happening. Get on board. Get on the bandwagon right now. Okay? So, to start this episode, I'm just going to ask Ryan right now, overview, what do you think of the growth of the podcast from episode 1 to episode 15 right now? Likes, dislikes, favorite episodes, feedback from friends, coworkers, just anything you think up to now.
So far, I've really liked it. It's been excellent. The sound quality's got better as we've gone on. Hopefully, I do a little better job today. I know I'm gonna try not to do repeater words today. Mary's yelled at me about that, so I wouldn't guarantee much. So
Sarah told me, she said, if she's here when you get here, she's gonna say, "So Ryan, in my mind's eye, what are you?" Because you said it like 100 times.
That is not coming out of my mouth today.
What's the over-under, JJ, on my mind's eye from Ryan today? Is it like 75, 80 times? I'm taking the under. He
James,
seems committed.
It's 0. 0. Not doing it today.
Okay.
I got made fun of for that for a week.
Yes, sir.
I can't pick a favorite guest. Because I've enjoyed all of them.
Okay.
I'm terrible with names. The young gentleman you worked with, I really liked his podcast, The Coon Hunter Kid.
Oh, Bailey Shefford.
I really liked that one.
Yep.
Obviously, I liked the Barron's Kid because I like him a lot.
Yeah.
His getting young, fresh face in, that's nice to do.
Yeah, that was strategic.
I'm listening to the Nesbitt one for the second time right now. I really like him. He's a good dude though, so I like his stuff he's sharing. So
yeah.
And I really have some strong feelings on mental health and as you know in this country and that. So I really like where he's going with that stuff. So yeah, I've liked all of them so far. So we've all listened to them. Henry's listened to most of them. I know George listened to a lot of them. So
all right.
I rep the hat everywhere I go. So anybody that asks me about it, I try to get them to listen to it. But so
yeah. We had you guys. I'll let you in on this conversation. We were talking the hats before we started recording, and young kids, they just know things. They know things. Older, 30, 40 years old plus like us, we don't know. The podcast symbol is that condenser microphone. And so he's talking to guys at work, and it's like, having the word podcast in your logo would be much more self-explanatory for us older people who don't know that microphone is a symbol. So second run of hats on Ryan's feedback. Basically, we're going to listen to that, and we're probably going to throw the word podcast on there. Mom, if you're listening, we need to make that happen.
It'll help my generation out a lot.
Okay. What now, when I put stuff on social media or just text back and forth, you and me, I always say stuff like, because you're sharing with coworkers and I share in my shop and things like that, like I always just say, you and me, we're taking the shops by storm. We're going to, if you haven't figured it out by now, this is a sneak attack Christian podcast.
Right.
So, but there's something for everybody, no matter what you believe. And what are some of the things, like you said, you've shared it with people you work with and they've been receptive to it and they're not like you and me, biblically speaking, believing that. So.
No. There's there's something for everybody to get out of these, I think, because you're not overwhelmingly trying to push your views and narratives you listen to. I can assure you some of the stuff we're going to share today, me and you have vastly different opinions on.
Okay.
And that's okay, because we have vastly different on a lot of things.
On some things, yeah.
So, there's many of things, and it's not going to be obviously earth-shaking news to you that we don't agree on politics and a lot of things, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
So I think, I think you can get varying opinions on a lot of things. I think that's a good part of it, you know what I mean? So,
but that is the goal then, to have somebody who listens and they might not quite agree for 10, 15 minutes of an episode. You don't.
No.
But it's always good to hear someone else's opinion. I was sitting down with a pastor yesterday morning, and I was hearing some things come out of his mouth that I was like, oh, man, I don't quite agree with that. Not biblical stuff, but just other stuff.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute. This is good for me to hear his point of view on some of these cultural things. It's like what I preach all the time, but you have to kind of train yourself because it just seems like you're instantly you want to shut down something you don't agree with, and that's not what this is about.
Right, yeah.
So
no, me and Mary went back and forth on what I was talking about. She doesn't.
Okay.
She agrees with about a third of my stuff. So you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
she's got
yeah.
a vastly different opinion on a lot of this than I do too. So
okay.
but,
All right.
like
Well,
I said,
let's-
these are just my opinions, what I see. Well, you know, from my perspective, it's one perspective from a maybe lower middle class guy in the in middle of America. You know,
Take
so-
it for what it's for.
Right,
This
from-
is my opinion.
This has been my upbringing. This is what I've seen happen in America. This is what I see. Somebody else can have a vastly different opinion
Right,
on
right.
how they were raised, what they've seen. You know what I mean? But from what I've seen, my wife, she grew up quite a bit different than I did. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
everybody's got their own views. You grew up different than me. You grew up down south. So
It's different. Yeah.
different. Everything's
Yeah.
different. So,
Yep. Yeah.
but we can have different opinions. It just is what it is. I don't dislike somebody because their opinions vary from mine.
Right.
Argue about
Right.
it. They're just
And that's just not
Right.
the way we're taught today. Today we're taught if we disagree, we're enemies. And I think we've kind of proven that over 14, 15 episodes. It doesn't have to be that way.
That's nonsense.
There you go. It's nonsense. I like it. Well, let's get into it, man.
All
Yeah, when you left that day, I was like, I cannot believe he picked greed. Greed, because in my mind's eye,
There you go. You're not going to get me. You are not going to get me,
in
Bubba.
my mind's eye, I was thinking, and I've learned as an interviewer over these 14 episodes, sometimes just play devil's advocate just to get more conversation out of
Right.
somebody. But I was like, okay, greed is bad. We know biblically it says it's bad. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Correct.
But at least I was saying, okay, devil's advocate, at least greed spurs people on to be proactive and whatever. Like, that's really what you settled with. Well, you went way deeper into greed and you branched out into all kinds of stuff. So share with us your not so generic view of just
Right.
greed is bad. Go
right.
deeper.
So I kind of got rid of my Venn diagram and put it into a little chart here where I got arrows going in different directions. But so what you said there, that it's the root of all evil, would be, I would 100% agree. So we'll start by agreeing.
All right.
I 100% agree with that because I think that the American dream is dwindling faster and faster every day. I think that I'm going to give you an overview and I'll jump in this. I think the vast majority of Americans have been tricked into thinking many things, including the fact that they are middle class and that you need to work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week like I did most of my life, 70 plus hours a week. And we normalize it in this country, and it wasn't for our benefit. Okay. And now I'm realizing it late in life. Obviously, I'm 50 years old this year, but I'm learning, that money and material things do not make you happy. A, and B, as a society, I'm trying to get this out so it makes sense. As a society, we've been normalized by this, and here's what I mean. So I think when I go with greed, I'm gonna call it corporate greed. It's
Okay.
not just corporate greed; it's the greed of the top 3% of this country. Okay.
Okay.
As the working class of this country, which most people are, whether you're a white collar or a blue collar worker,
Yeah.
most of us are middle class. Okay, so I'm just going to hit a few points here. I've only got about 6 points here. I had 40 of them, Mary said, and George both. George read through and he agreed with most of my points, but he said, listen, Dad, you got to be home for dinner tonight. You better
Trim it down.
pump the brakes on
I
that.
get it.
He goes, you're going to lose everybody. Nobody cares that much about your subject as you do. So I'm going to hit a few of the points that I think what led to the American experience we have today.
Okay.
Which is, in my opinion, a drastically reduced American experience than what they had 40 years ago.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Okay. So here's what it starts with. So this all trickles around the fact of getting both parents into the workforce,
Okay.
which I think was bad. There's a lot of things that have happened, and when I say both people working, this is so. I'm going to start with what the family structure should look like. Okay, the family structure should look, in my opinion, and this is just me again.
That Ryan's opinion only. I got you.
Well, it's not just mine. I think God would agree with my opinion.
Okay.
That is what it is.
Hey, that's a good side to be on.
So it should be God, Father, Mother, children. Period. God, Father, Mother, and the Father, Mother, the mother and father. They are the most important to each other, and then the children next. If you don't keep it that way, in my opinion, you're not going to get the other words out of me. That's the way it should be. Okay.
Okay.
And so I believe that the corporates and the rich of this country have tried their best to break this down. And why have they done that? Because it benefits corporate America and the rich people in America vastly. Okay. And the Republican Party is in my opinion, is the biggest, has participated in the breakdown of this family as much, if not more, than the Democrats. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this, okay? Because in the bottom line is you can be for the political polarity, okay? That's regardless. Guys like us, neither party truly cares about us.
Right.
They are out for the top couple percent in this country, okay? So so how do you go back to the 40s and 50s and 60s, the divorce rate was almost null and void. I had the numbers all written down, but George says nobody's going to care about all this. Okay, so it was very low divorce rates. There's very, very little children born out of wedlock. Okay, so when especially especially with boys, when they're born, their father was around. There's been study after study that's been done that shows if a father is not in the picture, he's not in that home. Okay, there is a massive incarceration, drug use, high school dropout, problem. Okay, why? Because the father's not in the homes. Okay, so we're raising generations of kids to go to jail and be unproductive members of society. Okay, so and that happens when your father's not in the home. If the mothers are not in the home and the father raises the children, I don't know if you know this, but the percentages of children that end up in prison or on drugs or don't graduate high school are almost identical to a two-parent home. Okay. That tells you how critical the father is in the home. So then you're going to have to, I'll say this. I know I'm trying not to stay long-winded on this. So when you look at a family structure, we broke down the family structure, and it started in the 70s when the women's movement started, okay? And it's not women to blame, and it's not men to blame. It's all of us to blame. Because there was men, I remember watching men when I grew up, and so men would take it as, I'm the leader of the household. This is, okay? And so there was a lot of men that were abusive physically, mentally to women, okay?
Oh, the iron fist deal.
Yes, okay. I witnessed it in the church that I grew up in, okay? And so in my opinion, men are the leader of their house. And if they're not, the house will never be run right. But here's what I mean by leader of the house. I don't mean I'm in charge. Me and Mary make all of our decisions together, okay? What the leader of a house is, and this is what the next generation, we've had a lot of, and it's some of my generation, but especially the kids younger than me, men don't want to, and this is what I mean by the leader of the house. I take responsibility for everything that happens in my house. Okay, I'm not Mary's boss. She's not my boss. We make co-decisions. Now, if it comes down to we can't decide something, I do make final decisions. Okay, but I also take full responsibility. When my kids mess up, that's my fault. That's not Mary's fault. That's not the kids. My fault. They are my children. At the end of the day, we made some big moves back in the day to build a house. We did some very risky things in our youth. Okay, and they were very stressful for me. Okay, but I knew going into it that if this fails, I'm to blame.
It's on you.
I'm not going to put it on my wife. So in my opinion, that's what it means for the male to lead the house. You're not some dictator. You're not better than the woman. You are responsible. That's what leader means in my mind. Responsible. And as a society, we've gotten away from that, and we've got these roles and mixed up, and women take offense that the male should be the leader. Well, I think it this way. Like I told Mary years ago, when you marry a man, you should marry a man that you trust enough to lead you down the path that needs to be led down in life in your family. If you don't trust this male to lead your family, then you shouldn't be having children with him. If he's not a leader, men should always take responsibility for their family, period. And men don't do that no more. That's a huge problem in our society. And I believe it started in my little Venn diagram that I've chopped
going,
out.
buddy. Keep going.
So here's the things. In the 70s, there was so the mid-70s is when the big women's movement really took charge, okay? And so women wanted to get into the workforce. And big part of that was they needed more workers in our country, okay? There was more workers than there was for these companies, okay? So they needed workers in the facilities, okay? So they started, you start seeing these ads and TV shows. So they get you slowly in this society. They'll try to get you into new norms. So all of a sudden you see women working here, women working there. And then it became unglamorous to be a stay-at-home mother. Mom. Okay, there's nothing unglamorous about being a stay-at-home mother. And here's where I'll counter you. In our relationship, me and my wife, if we were going to do it, I would be the stay-at-home parent. I'm a better house sitter than my wife is. I don't think this has to be the male that has. So this is where people disagree. There needs to be a breadwinner in a household, okay? If my wife, if we were to do this over again, my wife, she's got more schooling, way more schooling than me. She's smarter than me. She can make more money than me. If she said, listen, I want to go out and earn the living for this family. You need to stay home and raise these kids the way we want them raised. I would have no issues with that, okay? It's not about the wife going out in the work world. Now, if you have a wife that is a great caregiver and she wants to stay home and raise the kids, fantastic. But if the male is better suited for that, you can leave the house from at home. You don't have to be the breadwinner. To me, that doesn't make any sense. You're a joint team.
Okay.
You can lead from the house. You don't need to lean by going and making the most money. Or that to me is non. When you see families where the men and the wife compete over who made more, who cares? You're a team. Okay, so that's not what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
But this women's movement was led to get the women into the workforce. Okay, so then in 1971, 61% of Americans were middle class. Okay.
Okay.
And there was it was about 41% of women were in the workforce then. That was when they just started really getting in the workforce. Okay, by 2023, only 50% of Americans' families were considered middle class, with 90% of the women in the workforce. Okay, so you see what we've done there? So here's what happened. So between 1962 and 1980, the middle class's average income dropped by 27%. So what this is why I mean greed. So here's what happened. You got the men to get their wives out in the workforce, okay? And then you can you can just go purely to my employer, okay? Back in the 80s, those John Deere workers could go to work. They had a 30-year pension. They were making very good livings. Their wives could stay home, and they were secure in the middle class.
Yeah.
For me, from 1980 to 1991, interest rates went up and wages stagnated, okay?
Okay.
And they stagnated because corporates want more money, okay? The top 3% of America keeps growing and growing and growing, why they've lowered the standard for middle class, okay? So what it takes now, it takes you and I and our wives to both work to be at a slightly lower level in middle class than what the generation before us did. And they've normalized that to us now. So now our wives are almost forced to work unless you are, neither one of us. You know what I mean? We're not those guys that are making $300,000 a year, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So it was all part of a master plan. It wasn't the Democrats, it wasn't the Republicans, but it was all of them because they're all in cahoots. They got the women out there. They stagnated our wages. But then we're still fine because now my wife's making $12 an hour and I'm making 20. So together we're making 32.
We're doing good.
Where before the man could go out and make
do
that
it
32.
on his own.
Okay. And then your wife could be home raising the children. There's all kinds of acts like the 1971 Comprehensive Child Development Act that went in. There's all kinds of these acts you want to look into. They were all part of this bigger picture to get the women in the workforce so we'd have more workers so then we could, AKA, not raise wages. Because what raises wages? Demand. Well, if the demand's not there for you, what happened right after COVID? Everybody's wages went up. You know why? Because there was a shortage of workers, okay? When you double your workforce, what can you do to them? You can stall their wages.
Lower it, yeah.
Okay, so now we all think we're middle class now, but are you really middle class? Here's what I think. I thought I was middle class till a couple years ago, okay? So me and Mary have done decent. I've worked a ton of hours in my lifetime to provide my family. We've got some pretty nice stuff, But did we really grow up middle class? Because the price of admission was a wife who's constantly stressed out from working, a husband who's constantly stressed out from working, kids that don't get as much attention from their parents as they should, pawning them off on other people because we're trying to sustain this middle class living that we've seen growing up. So are we really middle class?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I mean about greed. It's all pushed by the top. So then I would say one of the other biggest things that really pushed us was, what do you think of Ronald Reagan?
Well, I was a child, but I've heard a lot of good things about him and his policy.
Right. So in my opinion, Ronald Reagan was one of the worst things that happened in the middle. Well, it's not an opinion. It is. But if you really do the research, trickle-down economics, if you read about it, was the start, that and when we put in the NAFTA. Those are the two things that killed the working class in America. So when you look at trickle-down economics, what do you know about trickle-down economics, Bubba?
Well, if the company does better, they're going to provide better
right
accommodations for the employees.
You know how silly that sounds? Do you think that happens? Does that really happen in America? John, when I started at John Deere's, they made $93 million their first year. Okay, you know what they made last year? $10 billion. $10 billion. Are they trickling that money down? No. You know what greed begets?
More greed.
More greed. The more you have, the more you want. So when they gave all these tax breaks and all these incentives to businesses to make extra money through Reaganomics, that money didn't trickle down. When trickle down economics started, that's when you saw the 3%, that top 3% pull away from the middle class. They walked away from us with this pretend that it was going to trickle down. Nothing trickled down to us. Look what happened in the mid-'80s around here. Was there trickling down money?
Yeah, there was a farming crisis.
There was no trickle down money in my family. So trickle down economics, in my opinion, is an incredible farce. And it's never trickled down. The only thing that's helped, like save my standard of living, is my UAW. So having a united force to fight a company is the only way I've been able to maintain a almost middle class lifestyle. If my wife didn't work, we would not be living where I live. And
Right.
I have one of the best manufacturing jobs in the state. Okay. 30 years ago, those manufacturing jobs were the best in the business. You could live anywhere you wanted in Waterloo, and your wife could stay home and raise your kids. Can't do
How
it
come
no
it
more.
didn't keep up? Yeah.
Why didn't it keep up? From greed. They went from making $90 million to $10 billion a year. And every year they want 4% more and 4% more. They don't want to trickle down anything. Trickle down does not work.
Wow.
So that is my massive problem with Reagan and Reaganomics and people thinking that he was this great president. He was, for if you're rich, which you don't look rich from your surroundings. You look
know I'm not
your facilities look very eerily similar to the ones I live in, Bubba. Rich, I would never put either ones in the rich category or extremely smart. We can go out and figure out we're both average, intelligent human beings who can survive in a world. We didn't get trickled down to us.
No.
So then what this has led to, I could go through all the rest of it, but we spend the whole podcast here. But they've also done this in the process also, though. So it's not just all them. They soaked us up into the greed, okay? I grew up in an 1,190 square foot home with 4 children and parents with 2 junk cars. And my mom didn't work, and she raised us till we were well into. She got a job when there was no kids at home. And there's nothing else to do. Okay, during our younger years, she was home with us. Okay, and so we got to enjoy summers. Our mom would be home. You know, it was, and in my neighborhood, it was the same way. I think there was 12 kids in the neighborhood. There was 1 woman that worked. Everybody else they had their. So during the summer, we were all home, okay?
Yep.
And we all lived in these mediocre, mid-sized houses, and we didn't know any better. Each kid I had 2 pairs of blue jeans and, and a couple of T-shirts. I didn't have $80,000. I had a couple toys and a bike, okay? And we thought we were living our best lives.
Yeah.
So now, what the corporation have done is they have pushed. You look, there's constantly ads. You need this. You need that. You need this. And that. You always need the bigger, better, faster. If you look at a 1997 GMC pickup compared to a 2024, look at the size difference alone on them. Okay, they're bigger. They cost 17 times as much money. Okay, but you think you need one now, so you buy one. I've got 3,500 square foot of finished house that I raised 3 kids in, and we didn't think it was big enough. Do you see what I'm saying, Bubba?
Right.
You know why that happened?
Because they got your mind to think that way.
They got me to think that way.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's all corporations in the top 3%, but they've tricked us into thinking that this is the way you live in America.
Yeah.
And so what it's doing, in my opinion, it's eroding the family. So here's the last thing I'll share about my statistics. Between 1962 and 1980, what do you think the divorce rate did?
Oh, it would have just skyrocketed.
What do you think? Double?
Yeah.
It tripled.
Yeah.
It tripled. And in that same time, between 62 and 80 is when we got both members. I'm not going to say women. When we got both members of the family in the workforce.
Yeah.
So here's my example of this too. And I'll get off my little soapbox in this because we have others to talk about.
Okay.
But it just really touches me. Two more things. Sure. Remember I told you how COVID was the best time of my life?
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay, because I don't like getting out in the world, and you know that. I just don't. I like my wife. I like my kids. I like being home. I like hunting. I like fishing. I like being on my stuff. Okay, so when COVID hit, my wife takes her job extremely seriously, okay, which is good, but it comes at a cost to the family, okay? Just like my job comes at a cost to the family.
Yep.
They just do. I'm exhausted from working all day long. So when COVID hit and Mary got to spend 3 months at home and the kids were all at home, me and Mary would go for walks every night. When I got home, from work, the house was clean, and I don't even care about that, but I had her undivided attention. That was the most important. If I could, I had her undivided attention because she was not so stressed out by the horrible day at work she also had.
Yeah.
So when both parents come home stressed out, tired, you're arguing and fighting over money, who did this, who's going to do that chore, because there's not a clear divide anymore. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
There's not a clear divide. So then what do? It goes back to my first point. What are we breaking down? That family. That starts with God, father, mother, children. Once you have both of them working and both of them are fighting for that top position, and then none of them want to do the chores at home because they're both tired, what does it do? It divides your family. Yeah. And so therefore, you get triple the divorce rate you had. Yeah. Then you get kids without fathers around. Then you go back. Then you circle back to my other thing. That's why I think that greed begets most of our problems as a country. If you go back to that root cause of greed, it's caused so many of these problems that we've had. You can look at it just spins and cycles around everything that's happening in our country. And then you look at this generation that's coming up now, okay? And we've all got, everybody always thinks the next generation is the laziest generation.
Yep. Everybody does that.
I don't think so. I really don't. Here's what I think. So my father's generation, he could work 30 years at John Deere's and get a full pension with insurance for his family till the day he died.
Yeah.
That company cared about him.
Yep.
I've got to work to the day I die at my company because they don't care. Okay? But I've still made a darn fine living. Okay? And I can afford the nicer things. So now I've got my oldest son, he'll be getting engaged and getting married here really soon. He's got a 4-year degree, super smart kid, got a good job making twice what I made coming out of high school, because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay? And so now we're out looking for a house for him. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? The American dream is almost over. Yeah. How is he supposed to afford a house when houses that are not worth living in cost $200,000? Can you imagine living? I mean, you got children. I worry for our children. There has to be a breaking point in this American dream.
Oh, I agree.
You can't have all the money at the top. The money's there. You can't raise interest rates, lower wages, and then take houses and values of things to these. I couldn't afford, me and my wife, who make a pretty good living now, I could not afford to go out and purchase a home right now.
Nope. No.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then you say they're lazy. I don't think they're lazy. I think they're fed up. These kids are not going to come into a factory and work 50, 60, 70 hours a week to do what? Sleep in their parents' basement?
Yeah.
Because the top 3% got it? For what? So then you get, so like I said, when during the 80s, when there was a purpose, listen, I can come here and support my family 40 hours a week, go home to my wife, everything's good. I can be motivated to work, motivated for this company. But when you take all that stuff away,
where's the incentive?
Where's the incentive for these young kids? I feel sorry for them. And I think it all boils back to, why does a corporation need to make $10 billion? I'm not picking on John. Here's a good company.
I know.
I'm just saying their profits, and I'm glad their profits discovered. I get more money than they make more money. But what I'm saying is more and more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, what do you do?
Yeah.
How can a kid, go and make $70,000 a year and go out and buy a $350,000 house?
No. Okay, so while they're in the front of my mind, I noticed that around 2020 because houses that were for sale for some reason before 2020, we watched the housing market. We knew what this house 2 blocks over cost. Small house. We know what it cost. It happened quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it happened by the next summer. That house is now worth $30,000 more, $40,000 more, $50,000. And then that ends up being the house that my in-laws are looking at buying.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, wait a minute. That's a $130,000 house. They ended up they got a deal on it. I probably shouldn't be saying these numbers, but, and so I won't because I don't want to cross any lines. But
astronomically high,
quite a bit more. And
Right.
I was like, that's still a $130,000 house.
Right.
And they probably shouldn't have, the sellers shouldn't have sold it for that. They could have got more. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's not right. So that's when I started telling young people in Bridget, I was like, hey, it's okay. Don't be thinking about buying a house right away. Do not wait for this housing market to stabilize, wait for the interest rates to go back down, because you're going to kill yourself. You cannot get into a house right now. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. I noticed that right away. The other thing, how I hinted to, it's something I've always thought was, me and Sarah have talked a lot lately about how exactly your point right there. How is it that I always think back to the 50s and 60s, the big Studebaker type looking cars. Right. That's it. One parent, the dad, would work, whether it's a factory or a white collar job, it didn't matter, but he could support his whole family. They could have one car, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, nothing huge, but not a shack. And they probably could go on one vacation in the summer as a family. How did that not keep up? How did that not, that's not possible. So me and Sarah start talking, and she kind of shares your view on that. We're used to way more now. We're used to way more. If we really wanted to, we could live off one wage. Get us out of the current housing market. Say the housing market's normal. We could get that $130,000 house. I could just work with no college education, but just a good factory job. She stays home. We could have one vehicle, maybe. We'd have maybe only a 2-bedroom house. It would be tight. It would be slimmer. It would, all those things. But you don't need the internet. You don't need Netflix. You don't need, and she started listing all these other things. She's like, if we actually would learn to live with less like they did back in the day, you probably still could, but it still wouldn't be, that's not what it looked like back then. People weren't living in shacks. They had a halfway decent, the wage went farther. It did not keep up over the years.
Wages have not kept up with inflation.
Yeah.
Period.
It's hard when you watch old movies or you watch like the Wonder Years. You remember the Wonder Years?
Absolutely.
Great show. The mom, I believe, was a homemaker. I think maybe towards the end she started doing stuff, but she was a homemaker, and you saw their house. I get it's TV. I'm not an idiot, but it was a reflection of real life. Right. The guy worked an office job or whatever, but he wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a lawyer. How did they have the car? How did they have the house on just his wage? You can't do it. If you do it today, you're living in a shack.
The money was more evenly distributed back then. The money didn't go anywhere, Bubba.
See, I never really thought about that, how you say that, because it's always been ingrained in us. Go out and get whatever you want.
Corporate profits are lost wages.
So how is it then? Okay, I don't want to go down the union thing here, but the unions are good. They stick up for you. How did they, over the years, not keep you guys getting the piece of the pie that you deserve?
Easy. NAFTA. Before...
Which is the National Atlantic Free Trade Alliance.
Now we have to compete with workers around the world.
Okay.
And I had it in my VIN. The percentage of union membership has dropped drastically in this country. So I'm not only competing versus overseas, I'm competing versus non-union labor. Once back in the 70s and the 60s, you were buying TVs made in America.
Yeah.
You were buying stuff in here. So you weren't competing versus China, India, the rest of the world, where they have no labor laws, they have no health laws, no environment laws. You cannot compete with them.
Okay.
So that is why. So the labor unions have kept. So if you look at my wages compared to any non-union shop, I crush you. I absolutely crush you. I'm 2-to-1 you all day long. My benefit package is unreal. Okay. But we lost a ton in 97. 97 was the killer for unions. 97, 98, 99 is when unions lost their pensions. They lost their post-retirement health care. All this stuff started happening because there was a downturn in the economy, and they really had ramped up the producing stuff overseas. So when they tell you, listen, we're cutting your benefits or it's all going to Mexico.
Yeah, this is blackmail. You
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, in the generation before us, that wasn't an option.
Wasn't going to happen.
Now you have that huge option. So it has taken some of the union's bargaining power away. The only thing that can be done in our country would be to get the rest of these shops unionized, and then, but the biggest thing is that Americans have got, and I was going to touch on this, why did we lose all of our mom and pop hardware stores, this and that? You know why? Because we all ran to Walmart.
Yeah.
We're responsible for that.
Yeah.
Oh, Walmart, I get it 10 cents cheaper.
Get cheaper.
So what'd you do to that guy's shop?
Yeah,
you
you're
just
hurting
shut
their
him down.
business. Yeah.
You just shut him down. So, and why did you shut him down? Even though you used to go there for 20 years, your greed. You wanted that product for 10
Save
cents
a buck.
lesser.
Yeah.
I can order all my fishing lures and stuff online for 30 cents on the dollar. What they cost me down to Hanks, I go to Hanks.
Yeah.
I go to Rocky. I have them custom make all my jigs for me. You know why? Because those guys have been supporting me since jump. I don't know where that stuff from Amazon's coming. So I'm not saying I'm perfect.
No, I
But
got it. I know.
I don't buy foreign vehicles. There's certain things I don't do. I try to do what I can to help save America's working class.
Sure.
And when I say working class, I mean all Americans, because we're all the same class.
Right.
Whether you're an office worker, wage, it doesn't make any difference. We're all in this together.
I got you.
So
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yep.
It's a way to look at it instead of just thinking this party and these policies have always been this way. Caden Barron's kind of had a clip into that about the top 3% and how a lot of the stuff they know, they don't that's knowledge they don't let come down the pipe. You know what I mean?
No.
So he has
He has some
what
very
you're
good points. Yeah, they're in the train workers, and they don't want you to think.
yeah.
Produce
They want us
product.
to stay where we're at. I got it.
Correct.
I got it. Okay, last thing on NAFTA.
Okay.
Was that an act of Congress or was that a president agreement?
I don't even remember. So the president's one that ended up signing off on it, but I'm not really
Was it
big into
was
that.
it Bill or was that
That was,
George?
that was Clinton. Was in
Bill.
office.
Because I kind of remember here. I mean, I was late in high school, so I'm
Yep.
barely
Right.
paying attention to that.
I didn't pay attention to it until they started threatening my job with moving it to Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, then I'm like,
Oh yeah,
whoa.
because you were probably working by then.
Of course I was.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I was already
Yeah.
out in the workforce.
Ah, you're older than
And I'm
me.
like,
Yeah.
this can't be good for us. So there's
Yeah, I'm gonna play ball, sir. Yes,
right, yeah.
please don't take
they,
my
they,
job.
They paint you in the corners, and then you take concessions to keep working.
Mm-hmm,
And that's what we've done as Americans. And it wasn't one giant thing. It's been slowly.
Yeah. No.
Now, like I said, I think we've came to a point of no return.
Really?
I fear for this generation. Well, how does your daughter get a teaching job, start at $40,000 a year, and buy a $400,000 house? How does she do it?
They're not buy. They cannot buy a house right now.
Right.
No way.
We looked at some houses for $150,000. I wouldn't let my dog live in them, Bubba. I mean, they're unlivable. So how does a kid making $50,000 a year going to afford a house? How are you going to start a family? How could she possibly have a one-income home making $50,000? It's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
it has to change. We've been through economic downturns. We've been through housing markets, housing crashes, all this stuff. I know we're kind of at it's the opposite of a housing crash.
right.
The houses are super high in value, and they're not.
Well,
they're
because we're
not
still
worth it.
we're still at a shortage. We're still at a shortage from COVID.
Okay.
So they have not the housing supply
I would
has
say,
not come. to demand.
hang on, keep the faith that it will. I can't say we're past the point of no return. That's hard for me to say.
I'm not saying that. I'm
I
saying,
thought you said that. I thought
No.
you said we're past the point of no
No,
return.
no, I said we're right there.
Okay.
We're running
Okay.
a razor's edge.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, at this current moment, children coming out of school to the average incomes.
Oh, they're
are
in the
not-
hole.
They're not able to purchase a home.
Yeah. No,
They're
I
just-
agree. I agree.
No way. And so I feel terrible for them. It's a worse situation. I purchased my first home, a nice quality built home, small.
Right.
It was in 1998, and it cost $28,500. It was
Yeah.
a nice home. Okay, I was making around 40. So there you go. Do you see how this doesn't add up, Bubba?
The numbers didn't keep
I was
up.
a factory worker. 2/3 of my yearly income bought me and my wife a home. So you take 2/3 of $50,000 now. What are you getting? You can't buy a trailer.
No. Yeah.
Right?
Our trailer in Dunkerton was 28,000. By the time after everything, it was like 32 out the door, and that was
Right.
early 2000s.
Yeah, because I bought right before the first boom, and so I bought in 97 or 98, and around 2000 things jumped big time. And then they leveled, then they jumped again, and they jumped all the way up to about that 06, 07 range. Then we had that bubble burst because they had given away all those loans where people couldn't afford them.
Those
And then-
ARM loans, yeah.
So basically from 2008 to 2018, prices really didn't move.
Yeah.
And then once COVID hit,
Yeah, that was rough.
right. So
That was rough.
I hope they don't come back. I hope they come back down, but I don't got a lot of faith in that they're going to come back down much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's George, it's your oldest that's in the hardest position. The ones that are just coming out of high school, they got a couple
got time.
years.
They
You
got
know what I
time.
mean? Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's George like that who's ready. Who's like, it's time to start getting the family. So yeah, that's tough. Well, man, I hope you guys enjoyed that economics lesson. That was good.
No lesson, just my opinion.
His opinions, but it's good. That's good information. I don't think about it like that all the time. But that's really good.
But that's the nuts and bolts of why I think greed has a big play, and from breaking down our family to our culture to everything that is America. That's why I think it is.
Right. And when you say that what you're getting at is like a social contagion. I mean, marketers. You say it's both sides. It's not one person
It's
or one
everywhere.
thing. They know how to market these ideas.
Absolutely.
And once you see it, like you said, slowly, whether it's anything, whether it's women in the workforce or it's the pickup trucks getting big. Remember when the Suburban used to just be a 4-wheel drive truck and now it's a luxury vehicle that costs $80,000? They used to be just big 4-wheel drive trucks.
I don't think you can get it for 80 anymore.
Can you not? I don't. Or,
They're like 90.
The Escalades and that. Yeah, they are luxury vehicles. But yeah, the more the marketers know what they're doing.
Of course.
You just see it and you see it and you see it. And not to switch subjects, but the whole gender thing. Do you want to know why it's like 400% higher in America than most other places? It's because you're just seeing it. It's a social contagion. The more they pump it out there, the more people think it's them, the more, and we talked about that in Sunday school a little bit this morning. You see countries are starting to pump the brakes on this stuff. UK bans all puberty blockers. UK shuts this down, says the data's not supporting it. Anxiety, suicide, depression, everything's still going up. This was supposed to help, and it hasn't, so we need to stop. So hopefully America's right behind them. I hope so, but that's just the social contagion aspect of it. The more you see it, the more you think it's normal, and yeah, that's tough. Okay, let's wrap up. That we went 40 minutes on
Did
that
we really?
thing. Good job. Good
tried
job,
to be.
Professor Peterson.
Bubba, you're lucky I threw the Venn diagram away.
And you only said, in my opinion, about 15 times. Much better, instead of that other phrase.
Well, I just want to make sure that this is my opinion, not Bubba's.
Yes.
Just so they know.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. People know my views and my thoughts. So,
Oh, man.
but that's good. Okay. So what I want to do to try and wrap up this part would be your other answer for the best thing we have going for us from your first episode.
Sure.
You said technology.
Yes.
But you also said there's a downside to it.
There
But
is.
go a little bit deeper on that.
All right, I won't get too deep on this. So technology is incredible now. I mean, you can use it. So just from the time when I was in college till now, when I was in college, we didn't even have computers yet. I was still doing my stuff on a word processor. Okay. So anytime I wanted an answer for anything, I had to go find a book.
The encyclopedias.
Okay?
Yeah.
Or read a book. And you know how long it takes to publish a book? A couple of years, right? So everything that I was reading was information that was 1, 2, 3 years old at best, sometimes 10, 20 years old. So you're not getting the most current, the faster. And plus, it would take you, I want to know, look up some blood work. What does this mean? What does that mean? You could have to go to medical encyclopedias and go through stuff. It would take you hours and hours to find stuff. When I started, so when I was having all my questions about why this, why that about God, I would search in the Bible, and it would take me forever.
Yeah.
Okay. Once I got my smartphone, it made me 3 times as smart as I used to be, Bubba.
Yeah.
Probably 4 times. I'm not that bright. So I start searching stuff, and I can find literature. I mean, in seconds, I can find answers to almost anything I need to know on this planet. Okay, so there's a detriment to it because kids rely on it too much now, I think. I believe that I was part of the best generation because I learned how to get by without it.
Yeah.
And now I have it as an extra tool, not my only tool. I can problem solve in my head, but then when it's something beyond me, phone.
Then you go to
I
it.
got it, right?
Yeah.
But I think where it's a downfall is that kids rely on it too much now. Okay, so if you ask a kid a question, they always go right to their phone. They don't think about their past practice and this and that. Mm-hmm. They've all walked around with calculators in their pocket all the time. So kids' mental math, these things that to me I can just do in seconds.
Yeah.
I see kids grab their phone out. You go to a cash register and it's 10% off, and their girl gets out. I lived 2 weeks ago. It was $9.90 for this product. It was supposed to be 10% off. She gets out her calculator. I go, what do you need a calculator for 10%? There's no percentage you just need a calculator for. This should be just bang, bang, here it is, you're on your way.
Yeah.
So there's one of the downfalls. But I also think here's the other 2 biggest downfalls, I think, with social media and technology. Where you get into social media, everybody's always putting on Facebook. Now, so I have Facebook, but nothing else. I know what you guys do this Snapchat, Instagram. There's like 10 other things out there. TikTok. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know about it. Okay. I have Facebook, and I got that in 08 or 09. So these kids meet each other through these apps. Okay. I mean, it makes you more isolated. You sit at home, these kids sit at home on the weekends, and they snap or whatever that is back and forth. And instead, when I was a kid, if I wanted to meet up with somebody, we met down at the street corner.
That's where we met at. And you went down there.
We went down there and we met him. What are you doing? Well, I go to his house and see what he's doing. I go beat on his door. You know what I mean? We couldn't even use the telephone in my house. You know, you want to go find your buddy, go find him. Okay. Yeah. So it makes you more isolated. But here's the other thing that I think is, and I think this is, I think it leads to some of the mental issues we have especially with our kids. So when you look at some of these Facebook posts, for the most part, people are always putting on glory shots.
Yep.
Look what I did today. Look what I did here. Look how great my family is here. Look, you see the great moments. So then you look at yourself and your family or whatever else, and you're struggling.
Feel like
something's
crap.
going on. You look at Johnny, his family having another perfect vacation per day. It makes you. It can make you become depressed with yourself because you're only seeing glory shots of people's stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I don't put on. Oh, I had a bad date on Facebook. You know, when when something really cool happens, I might throw it on Facebook. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year, I'll throw something on there. You know what I mean? But when people get fed all this stuff it's not real life.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you got this whole TikTok thing going on, and reels and all these things where they're
influencers.
Yep, they're 20 or 30-second little spots.
Reels, yeah.
And you see these kids where they can't even make it through a reel now.
Their attention span.
You can't keep their attention span for 15 seconds. You go to where I work at now, and it's break time, and you couldn't get a phone out of these kids' hands if you had a hammer. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's where technology, I think, technology is great. I absolutely love it. I'm a techno nut with my phone. I mean, I look up stuff constantly. I love to be informed on stuff. Anytime I have a question, I Google it. I can find the answers to stuff. It's awesome. It's advanced our society incredibly, especially for guys like you or I who aren't geniuses to start with. Yeah. You can pretend you're smart by Googling something.
Yeah.
But with these kids, it's isolated them. It's made them think that stuff's normal that's not normal.
Yep.
It's messed with their attention spans. It's messed with their problem-solving skills because they just don't have to think, and they've never had to work for the answers. Mm-hmm. I mean,
but didn't they tell us that when we were younger? Didn't the teachers tell us you're not going to get to walk around with that calculator in your pocket?
Always.
They did say that.
Now
remember?
You do.
And that's exactly what happened, and it's made us a little bit dumber.
Now you got a computer in your hand at all times.
Yep.
It's 24 hours a day you walk around with the computer.
Yeah, I know. What would they have done if you stood up and said, "Not only am I going to have a calculator, I'm going to have every encyclopedia ever printed in the entire world in my pocket." This kid's a nut job.
They had you committed.
Yeah, no, that's what they are. And that's what I mean. Things can change so rapidly, man. So yeah, I try not to get too down about anything because we could be sitting here next year and be like, "Dang, we came out of that. Right. Look at that. George just closed on a whatever. How like it leveled off. It sometimes you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully it's there. But yeah, technology very very. I
love it. Overall, I love it.
The advancements, everything. It is very. Very important, a great thing, but also I think what you're saying is it's dangerous, and
it can lead to, it can, like you mentioned today in church, if you don't keep an eye on what your kids are on, it can lead them down kids can get down a lot of dangerous roads real easy, and you'll never know it.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of bad stuff out there. For as much good stuff out there, there's probably 2 times as much bad stuff out there.
Absolutely.
And I can't imagine the trouble I would have got myself into.
Oh, goodness. I'm glad it wasn't around.
I am very thankful there's not pictures.
Think about the stupid stuff we did then.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
Pictures and proof of the stuff I do, I'd probably still be in jail. Just the dumb stuff I did as a kid. I mean, no thank you.
I'm with you.
And that puts stress on kids, too.
Yeah, that's tough. My goodness. I don't even know where. That's a whole nother episode, and we've hit that stuff with different guests, over the time, so we don't got to beat that. Yeah, watch what your kids are doing for sure. All right, you know what? We're at 52 minutes, and we got a few more things we wanted to cover. So let's just call that good for this one. Let's wrap it up, and we'll release some of these other topics here in the next episode. So. That's good. We got through exactly what I wanted to. I wanted to go deeper on your answers to that one question from episode 1. When was that? That was last August when we started?
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, guys, this has been Ryan Peterson from episode 1, I invited him back so we could go deeper on a few topics. He didn't talk about his life story. We didn't do any fun segments. It's just us getting back together, kind of reflecting on the growth of the podcast and going a little deeper on those. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you think anybody you know of that can benefit from this conversation, whether they're a Reagan conservative, or they're a hardcore Union Democrat, or they're just somebody who thinks
neither, like me.
Yeah.
I don't associate with either one of those parties. So just so that's known.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Like, share it with them. This conversation is good. This is what we need to get back to have a normal culture. So share it with them. Like I said earlier, we're still trying to grow the podcast. So if you want to buy a shirt or hat, that would help me buy something to upgrade our equipment. Check out our social media, Facebook and Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't have some of them other ones. So check those out. Ryan's got me all bashful about social media now. So yeah. Jeez. But somehow I got to get this word out about this thing. Man. But yeah, support us in that way too. Check it out. We do giveaways and fun things, and just share it. That's all we ask. But man, if you really want answers, if you're really searching, you got two guys right here. They're going to tell you truth can only be found in the Word of God. You can't count on anything else. You can't count on political parties. You can't count on your job. You can't count on the housing market. Nothing. So get in God's Word. And I've been doing a lot of preaching lately. If you want to check out any of those sermons, you definitely can get online on our Facebook page and see those, and I try and speak truth wherever I can. So join us for the next part of this episode, where me and Ryan are going to go a little bit deeper about the benefits of youth sports and biological men and women sports, and how Jake Paul has turned the boxing world upside down. I don't know how this Mike Tyson thing's going to go, but I'm going to get your opinion on the next episode. So be sure and tune in for that. Until then, Lord willing, I'll talk to you then.